Hey everybody, my name is Brian. Grateful believer in Jesus. This year,
Daddy.
hey Jeanette. This year I make 28 years of sobriety. Oh, tonight we're going to talk about amends. And as you notice, the music that I played tonight isn't our normal worship music, and mainly it's because that second video, how they were showing up them signs, and it was says like worthless, but whenever he took a picture, it said beloved. And a lot of that is because of amends. It's how we see ourselves. We hold up them signs because that's how we see it. So amends is built off of principle 6. We evaluate all our relationships. And when we say all my relationships, that's with yourself, that's with your friends, that's with your pastor, that's with God, that's with Jesus, that's with everybody. We offer our forgiveness to those who have hurt me and make amends for harm I've done to others, except when to do so would harm them or others. And it's happy are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy, Matthew 5:7. Happy are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God, Matthew 5:9. It's also step 8. We made a list of all the persons we have harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Notice, we became willing. That doesn't mean we went out and made amends yet. We're just at that point where we're becoming willing to. And Luke 6:31, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not do unto others as you want to just do unto others. So, okay, whenever you come into recovery and you start Celebrate Recovery, I say there's 3 scary words: sponsor, inventory, and amends. Those are the 3 scary ones, because sponsor, you got to realize you can't do it by yourself. You got to ask for help. Inventory, because you're about to sit down and tell somebody all the bad things you did. And amends, basically saying I'm sorry. And who likes saying I'm sorry? I mean, it's real hard to do. But right here during a step study, you've done your inventory. You've gotten feedback from your inventory. So this just comes natural. You start to look at that next step for the harms I've done to others. The hard thing right here is to understand that even though things may have happened to you and caused you to do something, you still need to own up for it. Like growing up, everything that was going on in my family that pushed me to the drinking and pushed me to the alcohol to run away from it, I can't blame them for the stupid things I've done. I still done those on my own free will. So tonight, we're going to give kind of an overview about making amends. Forgive me as I learn to forgive. That pretty much sums everything up. We started doing repair work on our personal sides in our lives earlier by admitting our powerlessness, turning our lives and wills over to God's care, doing our inventory, sharing our sins or wrongs with another. We call them hurts, habits, or hang-ups, but that's really what they are. And admitting our shortcomings, which was our character defects we talked about last week, and start to ask God to remove them. But now we have to start doing work on our relational side of our lives. We have to start making amends, and it's the beginning of the end of your isolation from God and others. This is just a point of beginning to do the work, not running out and make amends. A lot of people we get here, and it's like, oh, I already have a list and I'm ready to go. And I'm like, dude, did you even pray about that? Because I'm a checklist. I'm a spreadsheet. I want to check the list. But that's not how we do it. A lot of people, including myself in the past, I was like, well, if God's forgiven me, that's enough. I don't have to go out and tell these people I'm sorry. Being honest here. Or even, why should I drag up the past? If that horse has been beat and buried, why do I want to unbury him and beat him some more? You know? And making amends just don't sound natural. It really doesn't. Because whenever we're coming out of our addictions or depression or anxiety or anything, instead of do unto others, we're starting to think, yeah, we're just going to do to them what they did to us. So it's hard for us to even think that. But the answer is real simple. Making amends is not about your past so much as your future. Before you can have healthy relationships that you want, we got to clean up some of the guilt, shame, and the pain that them past relationships had caused us. Because remember, some of these relationships failed. So if we just move forward and jump into new relationships, those are going to be set up for fail too. History will repeat itself. So it's time to make a list of the persons that we harm and become willing to make amends to them. Again, at this point, we're only looking for willing. That's that heart change I tell a lot of people about, where I'm not going to say you feel totally sorry for what you did, but it's starting to bug you. It starts popping into your head some of the things you do. That conviction starts to set in because it is a heart change, and it's like forgiveness. I could say, man, I forgive him, but if I never see him again, boy, that's easy to forgive somebody. It's hard to forgive them when you got to look at them in the face every day. So right now, we're just looking for that heart change because we wrote our inventory. Some did the column, some just tell your story. But there's a column in there that's labeled my part. That's where we need to jump on right now. Because normally in the my part, that's whenever you listed the name and what you did, that they didn't do anything. These are the things that you have done to others. And this is why it's important to write your inventory and just not do it on the fly. I've had a couple of people say, oh, I have it all up here. I'm like, dude, write it down. Because later on, you're going to have to revisit this inventory.
And later on, you pick for more stuff.
You got to add it. Yeah. So your inventory, and we're going to talk about that in daily inventory. Your inventory is always going to grow. And basically all that does is that's finally you're at a point to where when you do something wrong, you get convicted and you know you have to fix it right now. So Luke 6:31 reminds us to treat others the way we want to be treated. And for some of you, including me, that was difficult because I was treated badly and I was abused. So it's like, bro, you want me to treat you badly and abuse you? I could do that. But that's not what we're supposed to do right now. And plus, a lot of the stuff that was done to us, we had no control over. It was just done. So often people ask me, the importance of forgiveness, only to have them say, well, I'll never forgive them for that, not after what was done to me. And when we get into some instances of like child molestation or sexual abuse or adultery or physical abuse, that is hard because that's some very deep, painful violations. I mean, those are some deep cuts that happen to us. So that takes a little while. And we have to slowly root out that dysfunction so that it doesn't repeat itself again. We had no part in it, but now we know the warning signs. So before that happens to us, that's how we have to start thinking. And that's part of making your amends also, because on your end, you know the warning sign before you get mad. So you know me, I start shaking. I know it's like, yep, I need to go sit down for a little while because I don't want to have to go pick up my hammer in the field. Actually, I've learned to throw left-handed and I don't have to walk as far. So, but forgiving a perpetrator for such wrongs, even after one harmed you, that's hard to deal with. You got a lot of emotional pain left over, and it just seems impossible. But the non-forgiveness only allows the action to continue to live forever. Whatever's in the dark is always going to come to the light. Our job is to flip the switch and to allow it to come in. Most of the time, we want to keep it closed. But the same guilt and shame is right around the corner, and it's ready to jump in and take away that victory that we just got with all the work we've done so far and to cause a setback. And in recovery, setbacks are relapses. And whenever you hear relapse, you just naturally think, well, he drank or he did drugs. No, she might have got mad and threw somebody through a wall. She might have got so depressed that she isolated for 3 weeks. That's the same type of relapse. Relapse is I don't know. I'm trying to find a better word to use than that because it's always associated directly with that. Or the anxiety. She had anxiety and nobody heard from her for 4 days. It's still a relapse because something triggered that. So we still have to look for that. So as we look on in Principle 6, we make amends to harm I've done to others, except when to do so would harm them or others. Listen as I read Matthew 5:23 through 24. It says, therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. I don't know if any of y'all have ever had anybody do that, but I had it happen to me, where someone pulled me to the side and said, look, I went for advice. The guy read me that same passage I just read. We need to talk because I can't move forward until we bury this. And it was amazing because it was something so simple that I never realized I didn't do. So I was able to make that amends right there. But in the same time, that amends offered that forgiveness on my part where they were able to forgive me. But the first part deals with being willing to consider forgiveness. The second part calls us into action to make the amends or offer the forgiveness. The only way we can begin a new healthy relationship is by dealing with the unhealthy ones from our past, admitting our wrongs and speaking them not just to people that we trust, but to those that were affected. That's what makes amends important. We can sit down with our sponsor, our safe person, our pastor, whoever, and we could tell them, look, I did this, 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 and this to that person. And you get forgiveness for it, and you feel God forgave you. But until you go tell that person, look, I did this, this, and this to you, and then you really feel freedom. I've made amends in the past. There's probably about 3 or 4 that I cannot make because it is just not safe for me to make them. But I would love to have that chance one day to be able to sit down. So we got to start making an amends list. However you want to do this is up to you. Some make columns. I'm a column person because I'm a spreadsheet person. So in column 1, I list the persons whom I need to be willing to make amends with and those that I've harmed. I list them all, no matter how embarrassing they are. Doing a complete amends list is important as doing your complete inventory. It's like, yeah, I don't want to put them down because I'm going to have to talk about that. Yeah, you got to put that down because you got to talk about that. This is going to help you, again, like I said a while ago, because whenever that person, when you're going to realize that person and you're going to recognize what you did, it's going to show you a pattern of what you were doing wrong to cause you to do that. And that's what we want. We don't want the same old, same old. We don't want the wash and rinse and repeat. We want something new. You see, in column 2, it's for the persons that you need to become willing to forgive. And remember, again, at this point, we're only wanting to be willing to forgive. I don't want nobody just throwing a blanket of forgiveness out and say, brother, I forgive you, and then growl whenever you walk away. I've done that. It's like, oh yeah, dude, we good, but you can get out of my face. Well, then we weren't good in the first place, you know? So, but all you're doing right now is you're writing down, and forgiveness cannot be done overnight. And if it can, you need to ask yourself, is that true forgiveness, or are you just chunking a blanket? I listened to a woman on a program one day. I was going to work and she was talking about a divorce she went through. She was with this guy 20-something years. He cheated on her. And whenever they signed the papers for the divorce, she looked him in the face and she says, I forgive you even though I don't want you to. I don't want to. And he kind of looked back at her and she says, I'm only forgiving you because God says I have to forgive you. That's not true forgiveness. I'm only forgiving you, but I don't want to. I want to hit you, but I'm going to forgive you because God. And a lot of times we throw God with that blanket and say, well, God says I got to love you. I love you. No, it don't work like that. So we get to amends tonight, the favorite part of everybody. We get into our acrostic. Admit the hurt and the harm. That is our A. Yep. How important is it for you to open up to God and others? All right. Your feelings have been bottled up right now for far too long. And you want to know what's going on because now it's starting to interfere with the important relationships you're trying to form. In this step of your recovery, you need to once again face the hurts and the resentments and the wrongs that other caused you because that caused you to do some other hurts and harms to others. Because if we don't do that, we end up holding on to resentments. And that don't just block our recovery, that blocks God's forgiveness also to us. I mean, if you're in the Word, it's God will forgive you if you forgive others. So it's really important right here. And then we also have to remember we're not the same person we were when we walked in them doors the first day. You know, we get to a point, I have a thing that on the thing. You can recover. You can. So whenever you're at that point of your recovery to where it's like, I no longer am that person. I don't live in that house no more. We just got to watch ourselves because our work still isn't done. We had a lot of victories and we got a lot of freedom, but we also need to learn to accept this new identity that we have because it's so easy. I don't talk about Satan much, but the only trick he has is to mess with your identity. He makes you question something. So this is real important to us right here also. Because we can go back and visit these things, But we never want to go back alone. Anytime you're doing your inventory, anytime you're going back to look for amends for people to make, get with God. Sit down and pray and ask Him, have your Spirit guide me. I never thought that was important. I learned that in inner healing, how important that was, because Brian would get stuck back in that day, and all of a sudden I was more mad than when I began. That didn't do me no good. All it did was get me more angry, gave me more judgment, made me start to want to get even now with these people. So when I was in that inner healing, he says, look, invite the Spirit in with you. I was able to see it, but I had that compassion around me because I was in a place where I wasn't angry no more. I wanted to learn. A lot of people say, well, how do you do that? What worked for me, I put on a couple of worship music, some songs like that. I found a dark room, and I sat in that dark room by myself and said, all right, let's go. I didn't have no distractions. Samson was sleeping, and I think a cat was accidentally locked in the pantry or whatever. And so I was able to get in a quiet place to where it was just me, God, and my thoughts. And that helps a lot. Luke tells us, do not judge others, and God will not judge you. Do not condemn others, and God will not condemn you. Forgive others, and God will forgive you. All right, the next letter, M. Make a list. You got that one right? Earlier, I spoke about the importance of writing and completing a moral inventory, and this is why. Because if you do your inventory, you have at least your names listed. I don't know if you did the columns or if you just told your story, but you'll have a name, then you'll have your story. So you can go back and you can look at these names, and then you can see which ones you need to make amends with, which ones you need to start to work on forgiveness with. But these are the people who have hurt you. So don't let certain things get in your way.
What if they did?
I'm going to get to that in a little bit. It's a good question. These are the things right here. This is what will get in your way every time you try that. I can't trust them. First thing you say, I can't trust them people. You're not trying to build a relationship. I'm not trying to invite you over to barbecue every weekend. We're not going to watch football. We're not going to hang out. We're not going to chill out. You know, we're not going to be together. So I don't need all that trust right there. All I'm working on right now is forgiveness, trying to forgive them. Like I said, some of these relationships you will never be able to rebuild. I'll probably have about 10 I cannot rebuild. I can be social with them. I can be polite with them. I can love them. But you're not coming to my house for a crawfish ball. I'm sorry. I'm not at that point yet. But again, I'm still working on it. The next one is they do not deserve to be forgiven. And you see, that's only human nature. We want them to suffer just like they made us suffer. And it's crazy, but that's how we think. And it's okay to think that. But also, we need to understand that we need to let go of that resentment, because that's bitterness talking. And once it's turned to bitterness, it's hard to come back. Right before we came over here, right before I started coming to CR over here, I had so much bitterness on my heart. I was like that. I didn't trust nobody. Nobody deserved forgiveness. God, lightning bolt, cook them. That's where I was. But you see, that was getting in the way of me forgiving someone. I don't want them to think it was okay what happened. And forgiving is the exact opposite. It lets you know what happened isn't okay. But it left you with some hurt, and you need to deal with that hurt. That is the thing you need to go back to. This is the one I use all the time. They're never going to change. Why I need to do that? They ain't going to change. I ain't going to forgive them. They're going to do it over and over. But you see, what hurt me was I had to realize people were saying the same thing about me. Why should I go talk to him? He ain't never going to change. And when I realized that was like a slap in the face. Because now I'm doing it. They're exactly doing to me as I would do unto them. So we hear all the time that hurt people. But the reason they're that way could be because of something that was done to them, and that's all they know. So we jump into column 5 if you did your columns, and that's on the other side, and that's the list of people whom you owe amends to. These are the ones you have hurt. If it's been a while since you've done your inventory, again, you need to go back through it and you need to update it. Add it to your list. Put it. Men tell me I got to keep a diary. Yeah, you got to keep a diary almost. But you got to keep this where you can get to it and go back. And then the next question I'm always asked is, why is it so hard to make amends? It's because we rear rejection. No, we fear rejection and further hurt. Maybe by apology or not. Maybe my apology's not good enough. Didn't have as many words. Maybe they just don't want to accept it. What if they act with anger? See, the next one is what if the apology doesn't change anything? You see, making an amends is not trying to build a relationship like we talked over about earlier. This is just taking ownership of what you did. You admitted to yourself you done it. You've probably admitted it to your sponsor you done it. You've admitted it to God you done it. Now I need to take ownership and I need to tell them, I know I done it. You know, it is hard to take responsibility when deep down inside you know that you have done you've done everything out of being defensive. So you may have been hurt, and what you did you did to protect yourself. We do that a lot. You know, growing up being abused, I was very skeptical of people. I don't want to get too close to you because you're just going to hurt me. They were bigger than me. They would beat me up. You'd beat me up once. They'd beat me up twice. I wasn't saved back then. But still, it's like we do stuff like that because our flesh is like, nope, we need to go into protect mode. We can't allow this to happen anymore. And this is another big one. I don't want to sound vulnerable. Being vulnerable is not about being weak. It's about showing up and being seen. You've made a mistake. You've learned from it. Now I want to grow over it. So saying I'm sorry don't make you weak. It makes you strong. Because deep down inside, that heart change I keep talking about is starting to get deeper and deeper and deeper. But when we're talking to anyone, we always have to remember, treat others as you want them to treat you. That's real hard to do during an amends too. I'm not going to lie. It is, because you're just sitting there and you're like, man, I really want to treat you like you treated me. Because now the anger, the flesh takes over. All right, E, encourage one another. It has been said that encouragement is oxygen to the soul. When the time comes for you to make this step, meet with your village. Y'all hear me talk about all the time. You have your sponsor, as we call it in recovery, your accountability partners, we call it in recovery. But these are your safe people. You need to call a city hall meeting. You need to get everybody together. Sometimes you get lucky and you have a small group, and it's a small group you can trust, and you can bring this up in small group when small group is over and ask them for their input. We're not here to fix one another, but this is the only way I know how to say it. If I did something stupid and it didn't work, and it sounds like you're about to do the same stupid thing, it'd be good to have a heads up. Hey, that didn't work so well with me. This is what happened. So it gives you something to think about. But when it comes to the end, we pray, and we pray. And then all of a sudden, God will move. God actually put someone in my face in Lowe's that I've been thinking about making an amends to. Just popped up. And I was like, okay, so we're going to do this here down aisle 9 with all these sharp utensils around me hanging, you know. But it happened. I was praying about it. God put them there. We were able to talk. I was like, look, dude, you ain't even got to say nothing, bro. I understand. That was helpful for me, you know. So we go into Hebrews. Hebrews tells us, and let us consider how we may spur one another toward love and good deeds. See, a gift from the Spirit is encouragement. It's exhortation. A lot of people, you could probably think of 3 or 4 people that are encouragers that may not be in your village. They're not part of your sponsor. They don't come to CR. You might see them in church. But it's like, that guy really know. I can tell every time he sees me, he's always got an encouraging word. You're not cheating on anybody if you go talk to that person about it and say, hey, brother, hey, sister, can I talk to you a second? Men with men, women with women. Stop there right now. But, hey, can we talk a second? And they'll tell you, yeah. Or they'll say, look, how about we go get coffee or something and sit down one-on-one. Now you can bounce something off of them also, and you can get that confirmation Because you don't go by, you don't, I'm not saying you shop for the answer you want to hear. God's already told you what to do. He's already given you the words. But as humans, we wait to hear them words from another human before we move on it. So that helps out also. The end, not for them. We need to approach those to whom we are offering forgiveness or amends humbly, honestly, sincerely, and willing. We don't want to offer excuses or attempt to justify our actions either. We'll only focus on our part. You hear it all the time. Don't expect anything back. We say that a lot. And you know, whenever I went before my dad died and I was able to sit down with my mom and my dad and I made amends with them, it could have turned into, okay, you did this and I did that and you did this so easily. But I sat down and I said, look, this is what I did. I never expected anything back. I didn't expect I'm sorry. I understand. I forgive you. I didn't want to hear any of that. I just had to get it off my chest. But the thing that was weird, by me making that amends, my dad had been holding a grudge against somebody for years, thinking it was that person's fault that his son was on drugs. But when I made that amends and I said, look, I started to drag my friends into this and I started naming my friends, his eyes lit up. It's like, yeah, he didn't bring me into his world. I brought him into mine. So that amends gave my dad easily where he can make forgiveness to someone else. So it can actually help wash someone else's heart, I guess you could say. But we are responsible to make the amends that we have done to others. Jesus says, love your enemies and do good to them. Lend and expect nothing back. See, God gives us generously and graciously, even whenever we are at our worst. God is kind. We need to be kind. Do you know that you can become addicted to bitterness, to hatred, to revenge, just like you can a substance? The drama, the self-pity, the breaking up relationships, you can become addicted to that. A lot of times, whenever we get early in our recovery, we see that. We just see, it's hard to forgive that person. I've called people vile. I could never forgive that person, just how vile they are. Look at them, but that was bitterness. I was able to forgive them. Took a long time. But I had to realize what was going on. It was setting me back where I was 6 years ago before I realized who Jesus was. And I'm like, no, this ain't going to work. So whenever that happens, the resentment and the anger kills us emotionally, and it starts to shrivel up our soul. That little light, your little lamp light, your lampstand light. We start hiding it. People don't see it. And then it's going to produce these three things: depression, despair, and discouragement. Depression is a mood disorder that affects how you feel, think, and act. It is more than just being sad or having a bad day. It can be at a point to where you don't even want to move, talk, listen. I've even had some people tell me I'm so depressed I don't even want to breathe anymore. Despair, that's a complete loss or absence of hope. You feel as if things will never get better, and also that everyone is out to get you. They go hand in hand. Discouragement, that's the feeling of losing confidence or enthusiasm, often whenever you face an obstacle or a setback. Relapse can cause this to be troublesome. A lot of people, they go back to an old way and they just get discouraged and say, well, I made 2 weeks and I didn't punch a wall, but I'm going to go punch a wall. Well, it discourages you. But those three things right there, we really have to keep an eye on, because I didn't have a battle with depression until I was 52, 53 years old, started to have a little onset depression. I'm like, man, what's going on here? I know I'm getting old, but still, why depression now? Why wasn't I fighting the depression way back then? The depression, I turned into despair and agony on me. That's exactly what it turned into. And then it turned into discouragement. I didn't want to come to CR. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to do nothing. I didn't want to give my Bible to someone. I wanted to throw it in the trash. But that happens. The next one, D. Do it at the right time. Make an amends Making an amends not only requires courage, good judgment, and willingness, but a sense of timing. In Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us there is a right time for everything. If you ever read Ecclesiastes right there, it's kind of like that old song, turn, 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 because there's a time for this, a time for that, a time. But if you go to that and you read that while you're in recovery, you're going to see when it's your time, it's your time. Some people, they quit smoking in a week. Some people, it takes them 10 years. But they quit smoking, it just took them longer. It just took them 10 years. But you know, when you get into Ecclesiastes, it really sets a pace for you. But there is a time limit to let things happen and a time limit to make things happen. There is a right time and a wrong time to offer forgiveness and to make amends. Before you make amends, pray, pray, pray. Ask Jesus for his guidance, his direction, and ask God for his perfect timing, because we gave our lives over to his will. So we got to let his will play out. If it's an uncle and we see that uncle all the time, that don't mean the next time we see the uncle, we got to go talk to him. We don't have to go say, hey, man, look, when I was a kid, doesn't mean nothing. Like that person, they brought it up. It's like, thank you, God. Now I know it's the right timing, because, you know, I don't always open my eyes all the time and see. But Philippians 2:3-4, it says, in humility, values others above ourselves, not looking to our own interest, but each of you to the interest of others. So we don't wait until we feel like making amends or offering your forgiveness. Living this principle takes an act of the will. And like I said, we just have to be willing to want to do it. We're going to work our way. It's baby steps. We're willing to want to do it. We're ready to do it. Now we got to wait for the perfect timing to do it. By making your amends, it takes an act of obedience. Just to Scripture, you got to be obedient. But we all know that whenever we need physical survival, spiritual survival, we turn to that book. Last letter, S. Start living the promise of recovery. See, we will discover God's gift of true freedom from our past is there. We just need to ask for it. We will begin to find the peace and serenity that we've been seeking. We will become ready to embrace God's purpose for our lives. Joel 2:25, I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten. That says it all right there. Whenever we finally start to come clean, like Job, Pastor Lane was talking about Job. He was given everything back. He had to wait. The timing had to be there. So I've had freedom from chains of resentment, anger, and hurt. I've had freedom from making amends to people for harms I've done to others, to look them in the eye, knowing that God is helping me clean up my side of the street. My neighbor, have a new neighbor just moved in. He's got all kinds of trash in the road because the people before me was like me. They had a tree laying in the yard since December that they still haven't cut up. So he got there, cleaned everything, and I'm standing up and I'm like, man, the neighborhood used to be nice. Look at the trash on the side of the road. And then he cut his grass, and just to let me know mine was high, he cut one strip of mine. And that let me know, hey, I got to look on my side of the road, because after he cut it, my grass was that tall.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, you want to look at my junk, I got to look at your junk. So it woke me up. But I want to answer one question I get a lot before this, and that's what you said. What if they're not around anymore? What if the person you need to make amends or forgiveness to hurt, to either tell them you're sorry or to offer forgiveness? What if they passed on? What if they're in another country? What if you will never see them again because it was so bad? And it's a letter of lament. That's what we do. And you've heard that. Oh, I'll write it all down, man. That don't work. All right. Did you read it out loud after you wrote it down? Most of us won't even attempt to read it out loud. Well, I wrote it. I know what it is. No, we need to write it out loud. Find something that reminds you of that person. A guy told me how it was an uncle. He says this guy was an obnoxious LSU football fanatic. He said he was obnoxious. He says the dude hurt me growing up. He wrote his letter of a lament, and he found him a LSU picture, and he sat it in a chair, and he sat in the other chair, and he stared at that LSU picture because that picture reminded him of how obnoxious his uncle was. And then he said at the end, he figured out he learned from the right person because he was just as obnoxious as he was. But it allows you to get all of your anger or your sorrow or your regret out. I never say strong language, but I've heard it where people just said some words that probably wasn't too nice, but you got to get it off. I don't condone that. But I was helping a guy with a letter of lament. When I was reading it, I was like, woo, Jesus is going to hear all these words when they come out of your mouth. But he was like, look, this is where I'm feeling right now. He says, this is where I am. This is the hardest one. Why don't you put a mirror in that other chair and look at yourself while you read it? It's hard to look at yourself when you did something wrong. Maybe the forgiveness you're working on is forgiveness for yourself. I talked to a coworker today. She has some struggles going on in her life, and I asked her, I said, did you ever make amends with yourself? What do you mean? Did you ever make amends to yourself? Have you ever looked in the mirror and told yourself you were sorry for putting yourself in the position you're in right now? Because you keep saying you're this, and this. See, we don't think about these things, but it's so easy. I recommend the mirror. I've used it once, and it's very easy for me to now to work on forgiveness because I know I have to look in that mirror and read that letter out loud again. But letters of lament, they work. They're not easy to write, though. You sit down and you write your story. Write what happened to you. But at this point, we need to stop and we need to look at how far we came. We didn't think we could accomplish all this in the beginning, and God proved all of us wrong. Now he's ready to help you get the freedom, not just recovery. See, y'all hear me say that a lot. We work towards freedom. You work your recovery, but your recovery has to end in some freedom. Because if not, then you just switch smoking for Celebrate Recovery. Yes, Celebrate Recovery is a tool. Going to church is better. Those are all tools God's going to give you. But we got to work from recovery to redemption, and it's that easy. We can't stay bonded in bondage all the time. You have to work towards your freedom. And saying that isn't easy. And releasing someone from their hurts isn't easy. But remember, at one time, while you were making a year being sober, you thought that was so hard to do. And now you got 6-7 years sobriety. Isolating from depression. You stop and think, man, I haven't done that in years. So you're getting that redemption. Being able to be in a crowd and not get all anxious don't happen anymore. See, those are the things that we start to notice. Those are the little victories we don't notice. We walk into a room full of people or service, or we're having a meal and we walk in and it's packed. We're not anxious no more. The only thing we're anxious for is for some of that banana pudding, and we hope they got some left. Or that piece of cake when we walk in and we see that chocolate cake. And we're like, I want some of that. But we're not anxious to be around people. And all of that was because we took ownership. We thank the people that we have around us also, all the people that's helped you. Because honestly, the best encouragement any of us can get that do sponsorships and is part of your village is saying, look, man, thank you for helping me. 90% of the people, oh man, that's not me, that's God. And I understand that. But still, it gives us the encouragement to let us know that God is using us in the gifting that he's given us. And also, the thing is, God is going to wait patiently as long as it's going to take for you to build trust in him. That's what we need to have right now to do amends and to work on forgiveness. We have to build trust in God. We have to have faith in him. But the main thing is we have to have hope. And hope is hard. Hope is the first thing we have to cling to. That's why I listed it last. Because hope is the first thing we cling. And then we work the other way. I put it last because that should be the last thing on our mind anytime we need to do anything. We already know God's got us. We made it here. We made it this far. So that is amends. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add?